Today, I'm talking about the American policies that have reached the pinnacle of capitalism and Canadian policies that are trying to be independent and somewhat left-leaning in contrast. Canada and United States were together until the U.S. president proposed tariffs on Canada in March 2025. But Trump has forgotten the long-standing neighborly deal, proving that there are no emotions or relatives in the face of exploitation, which is the goal of capitalism, making more profit. I'm truly glad that finally Canada realized it and decided to stand up with people. Furthermore, Trump has no regard for the impact of this illegal war that he has started on people's lives. Thousands of innocent people, including women and children, have died in Middle East countries and is sending ordinary class American youths to war. It is not the rich or those in power who are suffering from the rising prices of fuel or goods due to this war in the world. With the increasing fuel prices made higher profits for wealthy and businessmen, the lower class people have to struggle to make their daily living. We already know the Cuban crisis, which was driven by a severe U.S. imposed oil blockade that has crippled the nation's power framework, causing widespread blackouts and acute shortages of food, medicine and water. The reason behind the Cuban crisis was seizing the subsidized oil shipments from Venezuela, which previously provided nearly half of Cuba's fuel needs. This clearly shows how U.S. capitalism and dictatorship works. Donald Trump, after he has taken office in January 2025, repeatedly proposed Canada should become the 51st U.S. state. Then, the Prime Minister at that time, Justin Trudeau, responded to Trump's comment by saying there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of America. In March 2025, U.S. President specifically mentioned this during a phone call with Prime Minister Mark Carney, again on September 30th, 2025 speech to military officials and promising that there would be no tariffs if Canada joined the U.S. This is Trump's unpredictable dominance. He's using public threats, assuming that the U.S. holds more power over other countries, so those countries should be obedient to the U.S. The diplomatic relationship between Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and the U.S. President Donald Trump has become rotten from the day when Mark Carney came into power. As a Canadian citizen, I would like to clarify how I see these two leaders' behavior impact on the relationship between two countries, regardless of their political ideologies. The Canada-United States border is the world's longest international land border, connecting two countries with deep economic and social ties. Nearly 320,000 people cross it daily. The U.S. always had the support of Canada as a good neighbor or a good business partner. According to reports, approximately 90% of Canadians live within 160 kilometers or 100 miles of the US border. There are two reasons behind this: harsh northern climate and the concentration of major cities and agricultural land in the south. Also in 2025, approximately 72% of Canada's merchandise exports were destined for the United States and nearly 60% of imports came from the US. The US remains Canada's largest trading partner, with total bilateral goods trading surpassing $700 billion annually. However, as a result of the bitter relationship with the US, unfortunately, Canada has to look around for other trade opportunities. For decades, Canada relied heavily on the United States for its security. Now that's also changing. Carney is pushing for military independence, building domestic weapons production, investing in advanced technologies like AI and quantum research, and even developing Canada's own space launch capabilities. As a result of Donald Trump's unfair tariffs, Canada is expanding global partnerships, signing defense agreements across various countries and strengthening ties with Europe. Canada is trying to reduce dependence on any single country and build a more self-reliant, globally connected defense system. All these changes means that Canada is stepping out America's shadow and defines its own role on the global stage. The Trans Mountain Pipeline, which was completed in 2024, is an operational government-owned expansion delivering 890,000 barrels per day to the BC coast, while the proposed Pacific Pipeline is a theoretically separate second West Coast pipeline proposed by Alberta to further diversify export markets away from the US and aims to reduce reliance on the US market by opening access to Asian markets. In May 2026, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed international media in Brussels, tackling 4 tough questions focused on Canada's escalating trade tensions with the US and its new strategic alignment with Europe. Mark Carney emphasized Canada's independent path, refusing to use energy as leverage while strengthening ties with Europe made a significant impression around the world. Recently, Prime Minister Mark Carney became the first non-European leader invited to the European Political Community Summit in the Armenian capital. That signals Europe now sees Canada as part of its strategic and security circle, not just a distant partner. Prime Minister Mark Carney has accepted the invitation to address the European Parliament, strengthening Canada-Europe ties during a crucial time for security and trade. Analysts believe Canada and the European Union may now move towards deep economic defense, energy and technology cooperation beyond the existing comprehensive economic and trade agreement. This could give Canada a strong role in Europe without formal EU membership. The EU ambassador even described Canada as predictable and reliable, while praising Carney's vision for rebuilding the global rules based on peace and order. Carney and Trump's character difference is also very significant. We know the famous saying of quiet ones often hold the most power. I think this quote 100% applies to the character of U.S. President and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Instead of reacting emotionally, Carney responds with calm and confidence. It comes with experience, age, and consistent training. He never raises his voice when things get hot and also tries to keep his facial expression neutral. Donald Trump's behavior has often described by critics as unprofessional, breaking with long-standing presidential norms. Trump has frequently used nicknames and insults to belittle his political opponents, journalists, and ordinary citizens. His social media posts have been used to attack critics and spread information that is mostly not factually accurate. His actions mostly displayed personal attacks, inflammatory rhetoric, and he disregards traditional diplomatic and political decency. Many mental health professionals have described his style as bullying, using his position to undermine those who disagree with him. Compared to Trump, Carney deals with these kind of situations professionally and diplomatically. As a very proud Canadian, I admire our Prime Minister's brave and firm speech at the World Forum in January 2026, even though the Canadian military power is very low compared to the US. The bigger message is Canada is slowly shifting away from depending almost entirely on the United States and becoming a stronger, independent country. Canada should be focused, strategic, and stand firm to protect its own interests and choose its own path, as well as open only to equal partnerships. Believing the theory of everything happened for a reason, Canada will be much better off without the US. The message is simple. Respect goes both ways. Goodbye for now until we meet with another video. Thank you.